The credit card statement lay open on my kitchen table like a wound that wouldn't heal. 17. 0. Wedding flowers, catering deposits, venue fees, all charged to the card I'd foolishly added Zoe to for emergencies 3 years ago. My daughter's wedding, expenses paid with my teacher's pension, and the small inheritance from Donald's life insurance. I traced my finger along the itemized charges, each one a small betrayal. Enchanted Gardens Florist, 3. 200. Bella Vista Reception Hall, 8. 500. Morrison's Catering, 4. 800. The numbers blurred as my eyes filled with tears I refused to let fall. At 62, I should have known better. I should have learned by now that my children's love came with price tags attached. The house felt cavernous around me, filled with the echoes of a family that had slowly, methodically erased me from their lives. Donald's reading chair still sat by the window. Though he'd been gone 4 years now, I'd kept everything exactly as it was the day he died, partly from grief, partly from the desperate hope that maintaining the familiar would somehow keep me tethered to a time when I mattered to someone. My phone buzzed against the granite countertop. The kitchen island Donald had surprised me with for our 20th anniversary. A text from Zoe. Hey Mom, can you pick up some groceries for us? Running late from wedding stuff. Just the usual. Thanks. The usual. As if I were hired help. As if the 17-0 I'd unknowingly funded her dream wedding with meant nothing. As if I were nothing. I set the phone face down and returned to the statement, running calculations in my head. My monthly pension was $2,800. After the mortgage, utilities, and basic expenses, I had perhaps $400 left each month. At this rate, paying off Zoe's wedding would take me. The front door slammed, followed by the familiar sound of my son Jerry's heavy footsteps. He'd moved back in 6 months ago after his divorce, claiming he needed time to get back on his feet. At 34, Jerry had perfected the art of temporary arrangements that became permanent impositions. Mom, I need to borrow your car tonight, he called from the hallway, not bothering to come into the kitchen. Rebecca and I are going to look at that apartment in Riverside. Rebecca, the 26-year-old yoga instructor he'd been dating for 3 months, who treated my home like her personal spa retreat. She did her meditation practices in my living room, leaving crystals and sage burning that triggered my allergies. When I gently mentioned it, Jerry had accused me of being unwelcoming and stuck in the past. Jerry, I called back, my voice steady despite the rage building in my chest. Can you come here, please? He appeared in the doorway, already irritated. His dark hair was disheveled, and he wore the expensive jeans I'd bought him for Christmas, back when I thought gifts might bridge the growing distance between us. What's up? I'm in a hurry. I gestured to the credit card statement. Did you know about this? Jerry's eyes flicked to the papers, then away. A tell I'd learned to read when he was 10 years old and stealing cookies from the jar. Know about what? Your sister charged 17-0 to my credit card for her wedding. A pause, then a shrug that made my blood run cold. Yeah, she has mentioned something about that. Look, Mom, it's just money. You can afford it. And Zoe's been so stressed about the wedding. Just money. The words came out, sharper than I intended. Jerry, this is my entire emergency fund. It's a loan, he said, examining his Christed's fingernails. She'll pay you back, eventually. Besides, you've got the house, your pension, you're fine. I stared at my son, this man I'd raised, whose scraped knees I'd bandaged, whose dreams I'd supported through 2 failed business ventures and a marriage that ended because he couldn't hold a job longer than 8 months, who now stood in my kitchen in my house where he paid no rent, dismissing my financial security as inconsequential. Where's Zoe's engagement dinner? I asked suddenly, changing tactics. Jerry froze. What? The engagement dinner. I haven't received an invitation. When is it? Another pause. Longer this time. Oh, that. Yeah. I think they might have already had it. Like a small thing. You know how Zoe is about keeping things intimate? The lie hung in the air between us, like a physical thing. I could feel it settling into my bones, joining the accumulated weight of 1,000 small exclusions, dismissals, and casual cruelties. Birthday dinners. I wasn't invited to grandchildren's. Recital. I learned about through Facebook posts. Family photos. I wasn't included in because you never like how you look in pictures, Mom. I see. I folded the credit card statement carefully. Precisely. And the wedding? Will I be attending that? Of course. You're invited to the wedding, Mom. Don't be dramatic. Dramatic. As if asking to be included in my own daughter's life was theatrical. Overreach. Keys are on the hook, I said. Quietly. Try to have the car back by midnight. Jerry grabbed the keys and paused at the doorway. For a moment, I thought he might apologize, might acknowledge the hurt in my voice. Instead, he said, "Oh, and Rebecca's going to stay over tonight. We'll try to keep it down." The front door slammed, again, leaving me alone with the credit card statement and the growing dates. Realization that somewhere along the rated way, I'd become a stranger in my own life. I walked to Donald's chair and sat down heavily. Outside, the neighborhood was settling into evening routines. Mrs. Duncan across the street was watering her garden. The Morrison kids were riding bikes in their driveway. Normal families doing normal things. While I sat surrounded by the debris of relationships I'd spent decades nurturing, only to discover they were built on my utility rather than my worth. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Zoe. Forgot to mention, can you handle the catering deposit for next month? It's only like 2-0. Dad's life. Insurance should cover it, right? You're the best. Only 2-0. Dad's life. Insurance should cover it. Donald's life. Insurance, which had already been decimated by his medical bills, Jerry's last business opportunity, and now Zoe's dream wedding. The life insurance that was supposed to ensure I could age with dignity. That was my safety net for the inevitable medical expenses and care I'd clear today, eventually need. I stared at the text until the words blurred. Then I did, something I'd never done before in 34 years of motherhood. I deleted it without responding, but my silence wouldn't be enough. I understood that. Now, sitting in Donald's chair as the last of the evening light filtered through windows he'd love to sit by, silence was just another form of enabling, another way of saying yes to people who'd forgotten how to hear no. In the growing darkness of my living room, surrounded by the artifacts of a marriage and motherhood that had defined me for so long, I began to plan what would happen next. Because if my children had decided I was valuable only for what I could provide, then perhaps it was time they learned what happened when that value was removed. The credit card statement crinkled in my hands as I folded it one final time. Tomorrow, I'd make some calls. Tonight, I would sit with Donald's ghost and remember what it felt like to be loved for who I was not what I could give. The house settled around me with its familiar creaks and sighs. And for the first time in months, the silence felt like possibility rather than abandonment. The morning light streaming through my bedroom window felt different somehow, sharper, more purposeful. I'd slept better than I had in months, as if some internal machinery had finally clicked into place. By 7 a.m., I was dressed and ready to begin what I now thought of as my reckoning. My first call was to the credit card company. I need to report unauthorized charges. I told the plus. Customer service representative. My voice steady and clear. My daughter has been using my card without permission for several months. The woman on the other end was professional, sympathetic, even. Yes, they could freeze the card immediately. Yes, they could dispute the charges. Yes, they would begin an investigation. I provided the specific transactions, dates, amounts, 17,0 of unauthorized wedding expenses. Ma'am, I do need to inform you that if these charges are found to be fraudulent, it may result in criminal charges being filed against the cardholder. I understand, I said. And I did. Completely. My second call was to my prep bank. I'd like to remove someone from my account, I told them. My son, Jerry, he's been an authorized user for 2 years, but I'm revoking that access immediately. The banker was efficient, asking only the necessary questions. Within 10 minutes, Jerry's access to my checking and savings accounts was terminated. The debit card he'd been using for his temporary expenses would be declined by noon. My third call was to my lawyer, Janet Morrison. No relation to the Morrison kids on my street, but a sharp woman in her 50s who'd handled Donald's estate. Sandy. Janet's voice was warm, but concerned. It's been a while. What can I help you with? I need to revise my person. Will, I said, and I need to explore my options regarding some unauthorized credit card use. We scheduled an appointment for that afternoon by 9:00 a.m. I was sitting in my car outside Riverside Elementary, where I'd taught 3rd grade for 32 years before retiring. The parking lot was busy with morning drop-offs, and I watched parents hurrying their children toward the building with lunchboxes and backpacks, the same daily ritual I'd witnessed for decades. My phone rang. Zoe, I let it go too. Voicemail. It rang again immediately, then again. On the 4th call, I answered. Mom, thank God. Zoe's voice was frantic. Something's wrong with your credit card, the florist called, saying the payment for the centerpieces was declined. I tried calling them back, but the card has been frozen, I said, calmly. What? Why, Mom? The wedding is in 6 weeks. We have vendors who need to be paid. The final payment for the venue is due Friday. I'm aware of the timeline, Zoe. A pause, then her voice changed, taking on the wheedling tone she'd perfected as a teenager. Mom, come on. Whatever's wrong with the card, we can fix it. Just call them and tell them. It's okay. These are legitimate charges. Are they? I asked. Because I don't recall authorizing 17,0 in wedding expenses. You said I could use the Centery card for emergencies. The wedding deposits were emergencies. If we didn't pay them, we'd lose the venues, the vendors. Your wedding is not my financial emergency, Zoe. The silence stretched between us. I could hear her, breathing, calculating, trying to find the right combination of words that would make me capitulate as I always had before. Mom, you're being unreasonable. This is my wedding. Your only daughter's wedding. Don't you want me to be happy? The question that had controlled me for 34 years. Don't you want me to be happy? Don't you want us to succeed? Don't you love us enough to help? I want you to. Pay for your own wedding, I said, like adults do. We can't afford. Then perhaps you should plan a wedding you can afford. I hung up. The phone immediately started ringing again. I turned it off. At 11:00 a.m., I was at the hardware store purchasing new locks for my front and back doors. The elderly clerk, a man I'd seen there for years, helped me load them into my car. Changing locks is easier than most folks think, he said, conversationally. YouTube's got videos for everything these days. I thanked him and drove home where I found Jerry's car, in my driveway and Rebecca's yoga mat, spread across my living room floor. The Smell of sage hung heavy in the air, making my eyes water. They were in the round at kitchen. Rebecca making herself a calm smoothie with ingredients from my refrigerator while Jerry sat at my table, scrolling through his phone. Mom, finally, Jerry said without looking up. Something's wrong with my debit card. And Zoe's been trying to call you all morning. She's freaking out about some wedding payment thing. The card was declined because I closed. Your access to my accounts, I said, setting my purse on the counter. And I'm aware of Zoe's situation. Rebecca looked up from the blender, her perfectly highlighted hair catching the coast light. Oh my God, Sandy, you scared us. Jerry thought maybe you'd had a stroke or something, making such weird financial decisions. This 26-year-old woman who contributed nothing to my household had an opinion about my financial decisions. Rebecca, I said quietly, I need you to gather your things and leave. She laughed. What? Why? Because this is my home and you don't live here. Jerry finally looked up from his phone. Mom, what's gotten into you today? You're acting crazy. I'm acting like someone who owns her own house and manages her own finances. I walked to the coffee maker and began preparing a cup. My movements deliberate and calm. Rebecca, you have 10 minutes to collect your belongings. Jerry. Rebecca looked to my son, expecting him to intervene. Jerry stood up, his jaw set in the stubborn expression I remembered from his teenage years. Mom, stop it. You're embarrassing yourself. Rebecca is my girlfriend, and she's welcome here. Not anymore. This is ridiculous. Over what? Some credit card. Mix up? Zoe will pay you back. She always does. I turned to face my son fully. When has Zoe ever paid me back, Jerry? The car insurance I covered when she was in college, the security deposit for her first apartment, the loan for her master's degree that was supposed to be temporary. That's different. That's what parents do. No, I said that's what I did. Past tense. Rebecca had gone very still. The smoothie forgotten. Maybe I should go, she said quietly. Yes, I agreed. You should. Jerry's face was flushing red. If Rebecca leaves, I leave too. The ultimatum hung in the air between us. For 34 years, those words would have terrified me. The threat of my children withdrawing their presence, their love, their approval had been the ultimate weapon in their arsenal. I sipped my coffee and found it. Perfect. Your choice, I said. But if you leave, you don't get to come back whenever it's convenient. You don't mean that, but I did mean it. And something in my expression must have conveyed that.